All right, Rabbosai, good morning. Let's begin. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Mr. and Mrs. Martyr in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Mrs. Martyr's father, of Gedalia Aryeh ben Rabbi Shmuel Yitzchak. We thank Mr. and Mrs. Martyr for the dedication. We hope the neshama has an aliyah and the family in nechama. Thank you. Thank you. Our shir is also dedicated this week by Aaron and Alana Weinberg in commemoration of the 7th anniversary of the complete refuah shlema of their son, Yonatan. We hope that in the merit of the Talmud Torah, sweet little boy will continue to have a life filled with gesund ad meh ve'esrim sharim tovos. All right, let's begin. The beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is daf Pei Beis. We actually left off at the last two lines at the bottom of Pei Aleph Amud Beis. Let's just do a quick review of the Mishnah again. Just read through it quickly and then go back here. It says the Mishnah. So we're picking up on 81b and we are picking up 6 lines up from the bottom. It says the Mishnah. Hanitanim b'fnim shenis arvu b'nitanim b'chutz. So we'll say, remember, we're continuing on the same theme, which is quite a riveting theme, you have to admit, about sacrificial mix-ups. All about sacrificial mix-ups, which one has to imagine also, like, you know, when we look at karbanos, so we often kind of tune out a little bit, because unfortunately, after 2,000 years, it's not halacha l'maisa for us. But understand, the Mirat Hashem Bekarov, it will become halacha l'maisa. But then, even when you get into sacrificial law, one could imagine that there are certain halachos which were a bit more l'maisa than others. So I was thinking about this the other night, that it must have been sacrificial mix-up, must have happened. Meaning, you have a lot of stuff, especially when you have a heavy carbonic volume in the Beis HaMikdash. It's easy to imagine cases of blood getting mixed up, blood getting mixed together. So these halachos, I would have to imagine. I don't know, maybe some of the Kohanim how you have a Masoda from the Zaydas or something. But I think it must have been very prevalent. So listen to this case. So this case is another carbonic mix-up. So you have certain bloods which are applied inside the Beis HaMikdash, certain blood applied outside. The two different types of blood got mixed together. What's the halacha? So nasan b'chutz. Yishbechu la'amos. So we'll say Tanakama says, and this is the sheet of the Rabbanan that we keep seeing over and over and over, which is whenever you have a sacrificial mix-up, or I should say differently, whenever you have multiple types of blood or sacrificial parts mixed together, what do? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Don't offer it. So therefore, that's the first course of action. Mix up of the blood. Go ahead and spill it out. Spill it out. So the Gemara says, "Nasan b'chutz v'chazav v'nasan b'fnim." What happens if you went ahead and you applied the blood on the outside, and then went inside the Beis HaMikdash and applied the blood there? So kasher. The halach is ultimately, again, that is kasher. B'fnim v'chazav v'nasan b'chutz. So we'll say, what happens if you applied the blood on the inside first, and then applied the blood on the outside? Rabbi Akiva posel. Rabbi Akiva ultimately says that it is possible. We'll say we're going to see that Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that ultimately, again, any time you bring outside blood in, by definition, it invalidates the carbon. V'cham machshirin, and the Chachamim say no, that it'll still be kosher. Why? Rabbi Akiva says, Kol damim shenichnesu lechaper behecha psulin. Rabbi Akiva says that any time that you have brought outside blood inside to the Beis HaMikdash, by definition it is possible. The Chachamim omrim chatas bilbad. The Chachamim on the other hand say no, the only type of carbon rabosai that if brought inside becomes invalidated is what? Is the chatas. And we'll see, they're going to learn this out based on psukim. Rabbi Eliezer omer afa asham. But as it says, even the asham also becomes invalidated if brought inside. Shneemar Kechatas ka'asham. Just as the blood of the chatas, if brought inside, becomes invalidated, so too the blood of the asham, if brought inside, becomes invalidated as well. Good. Says the Gemara. V'niflog nami Rabbi Eliezer baha. So we'll say, why? Where is Rabbi? The Gemara says, you were thinking the same thing. Where is Rabbi Eliezer in this whole thing? Remember again, what's the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer has the most lenient shita whenever it comes to sacrificial mix-up, because of one word. What's his one word shita? Rowan. Remember, Rabbi Eliezer says, whenever you have excellent, good, great. Right? Whenever, give me an extra ragalach or a tea biscuit, whatever we have back there. Fine, I'm going to be away a couple of weeks at the end of the summer. So the idea over here is as follows. The idea over here, Rabbi Eliezer holds rowan. Rabbi say, what does rowan mean? That anytime you have a mix-up of sacrificial blood, you can apply the whole thing everywhere, and the blood that doesn't belong we view as what? we view as water. So where is Rabbi Eliezer in this discussion over here regarding inside blood and outside blood that gets mixed up? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. So the Gemara says, Heichi li'avid, because even according to Rabbi Eliezer, you're a little bit stuck. What should you do? Neisiv b'chutz v'hader neisiv lifnim. If you want to say first do the blood application outside, then do the blood application inside. So that's not going to work, and I'll tell you why. Kishim shemitzvah lahaktim al yoram l'tachtonim, kach mitzvah lahaktim pinim l'chutz. Because also in the same way. Now we actually never, I don't know that we ever explicitly said this, but the same way that halacha l'maisa, there's a concept of going ahead and dafka first applying upper blood and then lower blood. There's also a concept of first applying inner blood and then outer blood. The problem with if you do that is what? Is that once you take the blood inside, at least according to Rabbi Akiva, you've invalidated it. So that's not an issue. So that's not a possibility. Top of Pebes, the nesav lifnim v'hadra nesav l'chutz. Okay, so maybe you'll say do the inside application then the outside application. You can't do that. Why? Keva nikachatas v'asham dechi nichnas daman psulin lo psikale. Because both said that will not work for all karbanos. Why will that not work for all karbanos? Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen? Everyone agrees with chatas and asham that once the blood is brought inside, then what? Then it's invalid. So you both say the machlokes Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan is only by all other karbanos. Rabbi Akiva, as we're going to see, learns out from chatas and asham. Just like a chatas and an asham, if the blood is brought inside, it invalidates the karbanos, it invalidates the dam. So to all other karbanos, if you bring it inside, it invalidates the dam. Meaning, if you bring it inside and it doesn't belong inside, the Rabbanan just say no, that only applies dafka to chatas and asham. So I'll say, so because of this, there's really no recourse. Therefore, Rabbi Eliezer does not comment on this Mishnah. Good. Share Rabbi Akiva Omer, because what Rabbi Akiva used to say. Now remember again, Rabbi Akiva's shita is kol damim shenichnesu lechaper behechal psulin. Rabbi Akiva's statement is that any blood that belongs outside, when we say belonging outside, we'll say, what does that mean? That is normally sprinkled outside. If you bring it inside, then what happens? By definition, it is pasul. By definition, it is pasul. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shlomo. So this is actually amazing. This is pretty much as close to Agadat as we're going to get in Zevachim. So enjoy the next two lines. It's a mashal. So the Gemara says, so Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, mashal ma'adav adoma. To what can this be compared? So both say, now I just want to point something out. The pasuk that we're going to focus on over here is a pasuk in Vayikra, Perek Vav, pasuk Chav Gimel. So the pasuk reads, "V'chol chatos asher yuva midama el oel moy lechaper b'kodesh lo se'achel ba'esh tisaref." So the pasuk says explicitly by chatos that if you bring the blood of a chatos into the Beis Hamikdash, then what? The chatos is pasul. So that is a mefurish pasuk. That's why if you notice again, what in the Mishnah. Everyone agrees that if you bring the blood of a chatas inside of the Beis Hamikdash, then what's the halacha? The chatas is pasul. No one could disagree with that. Why? It's a pasuk. Good. It's a pasuk. Both says we're going to see Rabbi Akiva uses this pasuk by chatos and applies it essentially to all karbanos. That any karban whose blood is sprinkled, who's supposed to be sprinkled outside and is then brought inside, that invalidates the karban. That is the sheet of Rabbi Akiva. Now here we go. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, mashal ba'adav adoma. So if you want to bring a mashal, bless you. If you want to bring a mashal for Rabbi Akiva's sheet, what could it be compared to? Well, so it's actually a fascinating mashal. Mashal ba'adav adoma. L'talmid shemazag l'rabo b'chamed. So we'll say this can be compared to a talmid who went ahead and made a glass of wine for his Rebbe using warm water. So there are different ways that you could dilute. Remember that they used to use wine concentrate. You could dilute wine concentrate with warm water, with cold water. He made for his Rebbe a glass of wine using warm water. Va'amar lo mazugli. And now the Rebbe says, I'd like another glass of wine. Dilute for me another glass of wine. So listen to this. We'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Mashal Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva, who expands the pasuk of chatas to apply to all karbanos, he gives the following mashal. This Rebbe asked for a glass of wine. The student diluted the glass of wine with water, with warm water. The Rebbe says, "V'amar lo mazig, bring me another glass of wine." So amar lo b'ma. So now the student says, so Rebbe, what kind of water would you like me to dilute it with? Amar lo, Lo bechamin anu asukin. Are we not literally? Are we not in the sugya of warm water? Achshav bein bechamin bein betzonin. But now you can make it with warm water or with cold water. So what's the pshat? Look at Rashi just a moment. Lo bechamin anu asukin. V'chevan sheni omer lecha mazuk stam bechamin hayisi omer lecha. Achshav hineni omer lecha bein bechamin bein betzonin. So also listen to this. So the Rebbe says, since you had given me warm water, so ultimately, again, when I were to go, when I tell you dilute for me another cup of water, so another cup of water, bepashtos means what? Of the same type that you went ahead and you told me. Now we'll say, now why is this important? So this is an interesting mashal. So the mashal seems to be that if the student made the Rebbe a glass of wine with a cup of warm water, and the Rebbe says, make me another cup of wine. So b'pashtus, what does that mean? What kind of water? Same type of water. Same type of water. Now watch this. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. So Rashi says, Lo b'chamin anu asukin. So finish the rest of that Rashi. He says, Hayisi omer lecha achshav hineni omer lecha be'mecham be'mitzonin. Klomar, ha'osek b'davar ein ragil lahaskiro kishem edaber bo. So we'll say the Nimshal is as follows. When you're normally involved in something, so you don't have to be explicit if you want the continuity of the present circumstances. So if I just want the continuity of what is already happening, I need not articulate that explicitly. V'maskiro b'daito lahosef achirim imo v'omer avzeh shayisi osik bo yebecha. So we'll say, listen to the way this mashal reads, which is quite interesting. In the mashal, so if I asked my student for a glass of wine, and the student brought me a cup of wine, so diluted with warm water. If I would say, can I have another glass of wine? The inference would be what? Warm water. If I said to him, can you please go ahead and make me a cup of wine with warm water? Interestingly enough, the way the Gemara understands that statement is how? That warm water means warm water or cold water. Why? Because had I not said anything, we would have assumed that I wanted an extension of the status quo. Now that I'm saying something extraneous, it must be to add something. What am I coming to add? I'm coming to add warm water or cold water, which I will say, you see, you have to say it over to yourself a couple of times because at first glance, it doesn't sound intuitive. It sounds just the opposite. If I'm explicitly saying, give me warm water, but like, whatever you do, don't try this like with your wife. Because this type of logic, just do what she says. Right? The idea being over here, I will say, it's really quite fascinating. What this presupposes is that people are precise with their words. That's what this presupposes. So if my student made me a cup of wine with warm water, if I just want warm water again, just say make me another cup of wine, because that's the extension of the status quo. If I say make me another cup of wine and you could use warm water, why do I need that phrase? So the way that Rabbi Akiva is understanding that phrase is, it's coming to say, I could use warm water or anything else you want to make the cup of wine with. So it's an incredible mashal based on the idea that people don't use unnecessary words. Incredible. Hachinami. So we'll say, so what's the nimshal? Here we go. This is really exciting. Hachinami. Michti bechatos askina. So we'll say, watch this. The psukim that we're dealing with over here, the context is carbon chatos. So va'asi chatos the kasev rachman alamali. So we'll say, if the Torah is discussing chatos, then the pasuk goes out of his way to say v'chol chatos asher yuva midama al oel moed. So the pasuk then says, and if the blood of a chatos is brought into the Beis Hamikdash inside the building, then the chatos is invalid. You see here what the Gemara's kasha is? I don't understand. If at the end of the day we're already talking about chatos, then what? All you need to say is what? If its blood is brought in, why do you need to explicitly articulate chatos again? So in Rabbi Akiva's model, the extra mention of chatas rabosai tells you what? That the din of bringing outside blood in and thereby invalidating the carbon is not just a din in chatas, but is a din in all carbonos whose blood is normally sprinkled outside. Hachenami michti bechatas askinon va'asi chatas dikasev rachman alamali. So if we're already talking about chatas, then why is there the need to mention chatas again? Ela lav chatas ka'amin alei, ela kol kachim. Rather, the additional statement of chatas avosai must be what? Must be in order to include other types of karbanos as well. So we'll say, this is really quite a fascinating libud. So Rabbi Akiva's understanding is from this seemingly additional mention of the word chatos, we're learning out that the idea of bringing outside blood in and thereby invalidating a carbon is not just a din in chatos, but is a din in all carbonos whose blood is normally sprinkled outside. Maskif la Rav Huna B'Rav Yoshua, so Rav Huna B'Rav Yoshua is the kasha michti is Rabu Kol Kodshim legabi mizbeach le'inyin meriko shtifa. So both say, listen to this. We know that in general, again, all kodshim are including the obligation of Marika and Shtifa. We'll say Marika and Shtifa refers to the halachos essentially of Hechsher Kelim. Marika and Shtifa says that if you use a utensil for sacrificial purposes, meaning when I say for sacrificial purposes, I have a shlamim, I'm going ahead and what? I'm then going ahead and grilling my piece of the shlamim in my pan. So we'll say the halacha is before I use that pan for then something else, I have to kasher it in order to purge it from any type of sacrificial blios. So the Gemara says, Chatas the Kasev Rachmana Lamali. So why does the Torah have to single out Chatas over there? Shma Mina Chatas in Midachrina lo. So we'll say, does that not come to teach that the din only applies to Chatas and not to other things? So we'll say, so it's a reverse limud. So the Gemara says, V'halo dami el l'talmud. This can be compared to the following thing, to following mashal. L'talmud shemazag l'rabo bein b'cham and bein b'tzonin. This could be compared to a case where the Talmud made the Rebbe a cup of wine, and the Rebbe did not specify if he wanted warm water or cold water. And then what happens when the Rebbe wants a second cup of wine? He says, Amar lo al timzogli elachamin. So we'll say, if the Rebbe then says, if the Rebbe did not articulate or did not explicitly say which type of water he wants, and then what? And then the Talmud brings him a cup of water, and then the Rebbe says, I want warm water. Then again, that's proving that to the exclusion. So we'll say, so now the Gemara is saying the Joshua could be understood in a different way. Elotam Rabbi Akiva mechatos v'chol chatos. You're right. Rabbi Akiva's limud is not based on the previous mashal. Rather, Rabbi Akiva's concept is based on chatos and kol chatos. What does this mean? Disanya chatos. So we'll say when the pasuk talks about chatos, remember this is all talking about the pasuk that says that if you bring the blood of a chatos inside the Beis Hamikdash, the carbon is invalid. What Rabbi Akiva is doing is taking that pasuk and expanding it not only to refer to chatos, but what? To refer to all karbanos. This sanya chatos, ainli ela chatos, and you know that this then applies to a chatos. Kadshe kadoshim inayin. How do I know that even other kadshe kadoshim, whose blood is supposed to be sprinkled outside, but if you bring the blood inside, it invalidates the carbon. Tamalomar kol chatos. Kodshim kalim inayin. How do I know about kodshim kalim? Tamalomar vichol chatos. Div Rabbi Akiva. So we'll say Rabbi Akiva seems to learn out from the additional words in the pasuk. Amar Rabbi Yossi Aglili. We'll say first wide line on Pei Beis Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, 1 second. Afilu atamar bekol yom kulo eni shomei alacha. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says to Rabbi Akiva, I don't care how many ribuyim you make. You could make ribuyim the whole day. I'm still not going to listen to you. Ella chatos eni ella chatos yochid. So we'll say Rabbi Yossi Aglili disagrees with Rabbi Akiva, but he agrees in a certain respect. He agrees that the pasuk could be expounded upon. What he disagrees is how. So we'll say ultimately Rabbi Akiva is using this pasuk that talks about chatos and is using it to include all other karbanos. To say all karbanos, if you bring the blood inside, ultimately will invalidate the carbon. Rabbi Yosef Lili says no. The pasuk is referring to chatos yochid. How do I know that it even applies to a chatos sibor tamad lomar kol chatos? V'eini ela chatos zachar. I only know that it applies to a male chatos. Chatos nekeva, meaning I know that it applies to a female as well. Talmud lomar v'chol. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Klapi laya. Rabbi say, just so you understand, from a chatos perspective, more often, more times than not, a chatos was brought from a female animal, not a male animal. So the Gemara therefore says, reverse it. Elahachi kamar, ainli ela chatos nekeva. I only know about a chatos nekeva. Chatos zocher minayin. How do I know ultimately again about a chatos zocher? So the Gemara says Talmud lomar v'chol chatos. Therefore the pasuk says v'chol chatos. So we'll say, so Rabbi Yossi Haglili agrees with Rabbi Akiva that you could expand the scope of the pasuk. But in Rabbi Yossi Haglili's model, he is only expanding the scope to include what? To include other forms of chatos. Other forms of chatos. But halacha l'maisa not to include other forms of karbanos. Rabbi Akiva is using the pasuk ultimately to include all types of karbanos if the blood ultimately again was supposed to be sprinkled on the outside and you brought it inside, the carbon is invalid. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi Aglili really used this pasuk to teach us what he just espoused above. So but we learned, Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer, Lefi shematzinu kola inyan kulo inu madaber ele beparim hanisrafim usirim nisrafim, Lisrov pisuleihen abe sabira vela'amod below sasei al achilaso. So we'll say, so listen to this. But yet Rabbi Yossi Halili seemed to indicate from that pasuk that ultimately, again, it taught us. The pasuk is talking about parim asrafim. We'll say ultimately, again, the certain parim that are burned, like the par ha'lam davar shal tzibor, the par koi mashiach, the sirim hanasrafim, which are the sir that are brought for communal guilt as well. That ultimately, again, you burn the leftovers abe sabira outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and if you eat it, you're over an alo sasei. Amrulo chatos shenichnas dama lifnai v'lifnei minayin. We learn out the halacha that if a chatos, if blood is brought inside, it is invalid. Amrulahen hein lo huva. But say Rabbi Yosef Lili seems to learn out the din of a chatos from a totally different pasuk. Hein lo huva. But we're going to talk about it on the base a little bit. That's the pasuk by Moshe and Aaron by Yom HaShmini about the specific chatos that they brought. So you see that Rabbi Yosef Lili does not learn out from this pasuk. You're right. L'dvar Rabbi Akiva Kamar. Rabbi Yosef Lili was just espousing this in accordance with Rabbi Akiva's shita, but he himself held a bit different. So we'll say, so bottom line, we end off with a fundamental machlokes in Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim regarding what happens. So let's go with what everybody agrees with. What does everybody agree with? That if you take chatas blood, which is supposed to normally be sprinkled on the outer mizbeach, and you bring it inside, what's the halacha? The chatos is pasal. Rabbi Akiva takes that concept and applies it to all other karbanos which belong on the outside. If you bring them inside, they are pasal. Chachamim disagree. How do we paskin? We paskin like the Chachamim against Rabbi Akiva. It is only the blood of a chatos, which if brought inside will become invalidated. Other karbanos are both say, obviously, the blood should not be brought inside, but if it is brought inside, ultimately, again, it does not invalidate the carbon. Weiter. Mishnah. We'll say another very exciting Mishnah. Chata shekibol dama b'shnei. We'll say this actually is very exciting. Listen to this. So now I'm doing Kabbalah. Remember, shchita, first step in the carbon. Next step, Kabbalah. Right? You have to go ahead and receive what we call the dam hanefesh in a kli sharis, in a utensil. And I will say, so the case over here is as follows. Chata shekil b'damar b'shnei kosos. We'll say, so the case over here is, the kohen was makabel, the blood of the chatos, in 2 cups. In 2 cups, right? 2 kosos. We'll say, pei beis amad aleph, in the wide lines, the Mishnah about 10 lines in. So he received it in 2 cups. Now we'll say, now watch this. Yotza echad mehen lochotz. So listen to this. So what happens if you took one of the cups outside of the Beis Hamikdash? Now, and normally, if you take the blood of a chatas outside of the Beis Hamikdash, then what? What? Carbon is pasal. What's unique about this case? 1 cup went out, 1 cup stayed in. I told you this was exciting. 1 cup went out, 1 cup stayed in. So what's this? Now the shaila is what? The blood that went out, I know is pasal. What's my shaila? My shaila is, what about the cup that stayed on the inside? Is the cup on the inside still valid for use or not? So we'll say, watch this. So ultimately, again, the Mishnah says that the inner cup is kosher. The cup that remained on the inside is kosher. On the other hand, nichnas echamem lifnim. We'll say, watch this. What happens if instead of taking one of the cups out, fakert, where did I take one of the cups? Or the coin took one of the cups? Inside the Beis Hamikdash. Now remember again, what did we just get finished saying in the previous Mishnah? In the previous Mishnah, we just got finished saying that halacha lemaisa, you can't take the blood of a chatas brought inside the Beis Hamikdash. When I say inside the Beis Hamikdash, I mean inside the structure of the Beis Hamikdash, inside the heichal, right? Not inside to the temple compound, into the actual building of the Beis Hamikdash, invalidates the blood. So we'll say, so now remember again, in this case, I have 2 cups of chatas blood. So what have we established? Case number 1 is if you take cup A outside, then what's the status of cup B? Kosher. What happens if I take cup A inside the structure of the Beis Hamikdash? What is the status of cup B? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi Aglili machsher bechitzon. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, yes, the cup that remained where it's supposed to is still kosher. Chachamim postin. Wow. But the Chachamim say that if you take cup A inside the Beis Hamikdash, then what? Cup B, even though cup B has remained in the azara or in the courtyard or by the Bizbeach Achitzon, ultimately again, it is possible. So we'll say, so let's clarify over here where we're talking about. Normally, when we talk about the Beis Hamikdash, the Beis Hamikdash is comprised of the Azara, the courtyard. Then again, ultimately, the Heichal. Now, then you have, if you walk past the Azara, you go up the set of steps, down the other side of the set of steps. You're looking at the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the outer Mizbeach. Then you have the actual, what we call the Beis Hamikdash building. The Beis Hamikdash building, remember again, was like was two structures. There was the Heichal, which was a longer structure, and then again, the Heichal was perpendicular to what we call the Kodesh. Inside the Kodesh was the menorah, the incense altar, and then the curtain, which if you kept walking further was the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So we'll say, so case number one is where you took 1 cup of Chatas blood outside of the entire temple compound. You left the walls of the temple compound. So in that case, the blood that leaves the temple compound, of course, will be puzzle. But the cup left inside is kosher. Case number 2, you take a cup of Chatas blood into the actual Beis Hamikdash building, into the structure. Then we have machlokes. Rabbi Yossi says the blood left inside the acceptable area will still remain kosher. Chachamim say all of the blood becomes puzzle. Rabbi Yossi says, I'll tell you why I disagree. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Yossi says, when shechting a karban, or the truth is during any part of the avoda, if a Kohen has in mind to do any of the avoda b'chutz, outside the Beis Hamikdash, what does that do? That invalidates the karban, that invalidates the sacrificial service. So Rabbi Yossi says like this, if a machshava to do the avodah outside of the Beis Hamikdash invalidates it, yet lo asas hamashuyar kiyotze. Yet in a case we all agree that what, where you take some of the blood outside of the actual compound of the Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't invalidate the blood left behind. Then makom sheina machshava poselas befnim. Eno din shlo nasas hamashuyar kinichnas. So ultimately, against Rabbi Yossi says, then certainly in a case where what? When if a Kohen doing the avoda has in mind to go ahead and bring the blood on the inside, Rabbi say, then what? Even though that is illegal, that does not invalidate the karban. So if a machshavas pnim does not invalidate the sacrificial service, then what? Certainly when you bring 1 cup of blood inside the Beis Hamikdash proper, Beis Hamikdash building, it shouldn't invalidate the blood that is left in the appropriate area. It's a good kal v'chomer. So nichnas lechaper. So we'll say the Gemara goes weiter for the next case. Nichnas lechaper avabi shelo keeper. We'll say if he walks in with the sacrificial blood, with the intention ultimately again for kapara. Then I will say now what that means ultimately is, it sounds like over here that he's walking in with the intention to do the hazos, to do the sprinkling on the mizbeach hapanimi, but what? He doesn't actually do it. Avabi shelo kapar. Puzzle. Ultimately, again, that invalidates the blood. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Shimon Omer ad sheyichaper. Rabbi Shimon says no. It'll only be puzzle if he actually does the avodah. We'll see what this means. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im hichnis shogei kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says if he accidentally brings in the sacrificial blood to the inside of the Beis Hamikdash, the karban is still kosher. Kol adamim psulin shenasnu al gabi hamizbeach lo hirtzahat sitz ela ala tameh. Further, we're going to say another halacha. Any invalid blood that was accidentally offered up on the Mizbeach, the tzitz does not affect atonement for that blood unless the blood is tameh. The one thing that tzitz, right? Remember again that tzitz is the, what's the right word? The forehead plate, right? That's the plate that's Kodesh Hashem that sits on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol. Shatzitz miratz ala tameh, ve'ina miratz ala yotze. Because the tzitz only goes in the tones for the items which are tameh, but not items which are taken out of bounds. Good. Says the Gemara. Tanya. Rabbi Yossi. So let's remember again. So remember, the case we're really going to focus on over here. See, it's no fun to focus on the case that everybody agrees with, right? Because everybody agrees with it. So therefore, if I have 2 cups of chatas blood, and one of those cups is taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash, outside, everyone agrees that what? That ultimately, again, the remaining cup is kosher, right? Obviously, everyone agrees the one taken out is puzzle, that everyone agrees with, and the one that remains inside, ultimately, again, is kosher. The machlokes case is where you have 2 cups. One remains, we'll call it, in the kosher area, and the other is taken inside to the Beis Hamikdash proper. In that case, Rabbi Yossi says the cup that remains in the proper area is kosher. Chachamim say it is puzzle. So here we go. Tanya. Rabbi Yossi Kavachomer. Uma b'makom shemachshava, and we'll say, here's the kavachomer Rabbi Yosef Lili. Uma b'makom shemachshava poselas b'chutz, lo pasal dam shebachutz es shebifnim. So we'll say, remember again, when it comes to the world of machshava, if you have a machshava to do avodah outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it invalidates the karban. Yet, when you take blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it does not invalidate the blood left over. Then I would think makom she'in machshava poselas bifnim. Then I will say in a case where machshava is not possible. Where does machshava not possible? If when doing the avodah you have in mind to bring the blood inside the Beis Hamikdash, as much as that is illegal, it does not invalidate. Then eino din shelo yiposel dam shebifnim shebachutz. Then I will say goes without saying that what? That when you take some of the blood inside, it should not invalidate the blood left outside. See, I will say, let's assume for a moment we'll all agree that the blood taken inside is invalid for use. But that's okay. That's not what we're focusing on. What are we focusing on over here? The usability of the blood that's left in a sanctioned area. Amrle, so I said to Rabbi Yosef Lili, Harehu Omer Asher Yuva Midama. The pasuk says, remember again, this is the pasuk talking about that if the blood of a chatas is brought inside the Beis Hamikdash, so the chatas is invalid. I both say, now the chiddush over here is the Gemara says, Asher Yuva Midama, Afilu miktsas dama. Now the chiddush that they're saying over here, Abosai, is that what? Even if only some of the blood is brought inside the Beis Hamikdash. So Abosai, see in the previous case, when we spoke about a chatas, if it's brought inside the Beis Hamikdash, the chatas is invalid. We were talking about what? Where all of the blood was brought inside. Here the Gemara is darshaning, Asher yuva midama. What a drasha. Midama means what? Midama means what? Even some of the blood. So the drasha is that even if some of the blood is brought inside the Beis Hamikdash, that will also go ahead and invalidate the karban. Afilu miktsas dama. So the Gemara says, Amar lahem, Afilu miktsas dama. Amar lahem, kal v'chomer liyotze me'ata. So Rabbi Akiva responds, well, I should have a kal v'chomer. Here's the kal v'chomer. Uma b'makom shin machshav poselas bifnim, posel dam shebifnim shebachutz. So when it comes to the world of machshava, so machshava to do avoda on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash does not invalidate the karban. Yet what? Shein makom machshava poselas bifnim, posel dam shebifnim shebachutz. Yet if you bring some of the blood inside, it invalidates the blood even left outside. If that's the case, Rabbi Yosef Lili says, then makom shemachshava poselas bachutz. Then Rabbi says certainly in a case where a machshava for chutz does invalidate the karban, eino din she pasal dam shebachutz shebifnim. Then again, I would say Rabbi Yosef Lili is turning their logic on them. Then if that's the case again, then blood that is brought outside should invalidate any leftover blood that's left inside. Armulo harehu omer asher yuva. They said to Rabbi Yosef Lili, the pasuk says asher yuva hanichnas posel veina yotze posel. It is only blood that is brought inside the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi say that's what? That invalidates any remaining blood outside, but blood brought outside of the Beis Hamikdash does not invalidate blood left on the inside. Ayutei machshava bifnim poselas mikal v'chomer. So we'll say, but 1 second. Why don't we say that a machshava to do the avoda inside the Beis Hamikdash should invalidate the karban based on a kal v'chomer? And I'll tell you how. Listen to this. So we'll say in a case, ultimately again, where blood taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash does not invalidate that which is left inside. Yet machshava poselas bachutz. Yet a machshava to do the avoda outside of the Beis Hamikdash will invalidate the karban. Makom shepasal dam shebifnim esh dam shebachutz. Then I both say when you take some of the blood inside the Beis Hamikdash and it does invalidate the blood left in the appropriate place, then certainly what? A machshava to do the avoda inside the Beis Hamikdash should certainly invalidate the karban. Hareyu omer bayom hashlishi. Therefore, I will say the pasuk says bayom hashlishi, which teaches me what? Makom sheyeh meshulash bedam bebasar ubeimurim. I will say the only makom which ultimately goes ahead and invalidates a karban abosai is a place where you could do all three things: dam, basar, and emurim. We could do blood applications and burn ultimately meat as well as limbs. And since on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash we don't burn meat and we don't burn limbs, therefore again the machshava cannot invalidate. Velotehe machshava poselas bachutz mikal v'chomer. So remember, all that's happening over here is now we're just going through all of the different variations of this logic. Velotehe machshava poselas bachutz mikal v'chomer. So we'll say I can make the argument that now a machshava bachutz, A machshava to do the avoda outside of the Beis Hamikdash should not invalidate the kal v'chomer based on should not invalidate the avoda based on a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Uma makom sheposal dam bifnim es shebachutz. So we'll say ultimately again in a situation where if he takes some of the blood inside the Beis Hamikdash and invalidates that which is left outside, yet even in that case, in machshava poselas bifnim. Yet a machshava to do the avoda on the inside does not invalidate the carbon. Makom shelo pasal dam shebachutz shebifnim. That Rabbi say certainly in a case where he takes some of the blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it does not invalidate the blood left inside. Eino din shi'eh posal machshava b'chutz. Then all the more so, ultimately, again, a machshava b'chutz should not invalidate as well. Talmud lomar shlishi. Therefore, both say the pasuk from the word shlishi we learn chutz lizmano. We learn that having intention to do the avoda outside of the prescribed time will invalidate the carbon. Pigul chutz limkomo. And Pigul teaches me that there is an invalidation when I have in mind to do the avoda outside of the prescribed area. Basar hanichnas lifnim kasher. Supposed to listen to this. Meat that is brought inside, ultimately again will still be kosher. Shehei bedin shepasel, because I might have thought based on the kal v'chomer there should be pasel. How so? Uma b'makom shelo pasel dam shebachotz shebifnim. So listen to this. In a case where ultimately again blood brought outside does not invalidate blood that is left on the inside, basar hayotze lechutz pasel, right? Then ultimately again, but meat that is brought outside of us outside of the is pasel. Makom shepasal dam shebifnim shebachutz. Then Rabbi say all the more so in a case where blood that is brought inside invalidates any blood that is left outside. Then basar hanichnas bifnim eino din shi pasal. Then Rabbi say if you end up bringing sacrificial blood inside the Beis Hamikdash, certainly it should be pasal. Harehu omer midama. Therefore, Rabbi say the pasuk says from its blood dama v'lo basar. So it's actually a very interesting halacha that I will say it is only the bringing in of blood which has the potential to invalidate the carbon. Chatas, according to everyone, and according to Rabbi Kiva, other carbonas as well. But apparently, if you inadvertently bring in sacrificial meat inside the Beis Hamikdash, because also remember again, sacrificial meat was never ever brought into the Beis Hamikdash. It's very clear, never brought into the Beis Hamikdash. Because remember again, no animal offerings are offered up inside the Beis Hamikdash. What happens if you accidentally brought meat inside the Beis Hamikdash? So the halacha is, it doesn't invalidate the meat. Blood, if brought in, will invalidate the blood, will invalidate the carbon. Meat, if inadvertently brought in, will not invalidate the carbon. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer, I can make a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Uma b'makom shepasal dam shebifnim shebachutz. Supposed to listen to this. In a situation, shepasal dam, so blood brought inside will invalidate any leftover blood on the outside. Basar hanichnas lifnim kasher. Yet, Rabosai, still in a case where you bring meat inside, the meat will be kasher. I would have said, makom shelo pasal dam shebachutz es shebifnim. So we'll say all the more so in a case where what? Where ultimately, if you bring blood outside, it does not invalidate the blood that is left inside. Excuse me, it does not invalidate the blood that is left inside. So ultimately, again, basra yotzi lechutz eno din shekasher. Ultimately, I can say based on the kal v'chomer that what? That if you bring meat outside, it should also continue to be kosher. Harehu omer, therefore the pasuk says, ubasar basada treifa lo sochelu. Therefore, the pasuk says, if you find a treifa in the field, you shall not eat it. What do we learn from that? Kevan sheyatza basar chutz lemechitzaso ne'asar. The idea the Gemara dashes from here is that basar basada means meat that is outside of its appropriate confines. Any time the meat leaves its appropriate confines, in this case from a sacrificial perspective, it leaves the Beis Hamikdash, ultimately again it will be asar. Tana Rabbanan, we'll say one last piece for today. Tana Rabbanan, Pnima, we'll say get ready for this. This is really interesting. So the pasuk says, Pnima, Hein lohuva as dama el hakodesh Pnima, achol tochlu osav hakodesh kasher tzidesi. So we'll say this is in Parsha Shmini, by the chatos of Aaron on the day that Nadav and Avihu dies. There's a lot of complications with this particular chatos. What Moshe Rabbeinu was wondering about was what? Why didn't they eat the chatos? So both say, now, by the way, the story begins to make so, we all know that in order to understand Chumash, you have to learn Gemara. So now both say, for the first time we actually understand that story in Parsha Shmini. Moshe Rabbeinu gets angry at Aaron for not eating the chatos. Now at first glance, Moshe Rabbeinu assumes that why didn't Aaron eat the chatos? Maybe what happened, based on what we learned, maybe what happened? What happened? maybe Aaron accidentally brought the blood inside. Oh, what happens if you bring the blood of the chatos inside the Beis Hamikdash? Say then what? L'divrei hakol, it is possible. Moshe Rabbeinu asked, "No, did you accidentally bring the blood of the chatos inside the Beis Hamikdash?" To which Aaron says, "No." So then Moshe Rabbeinu was puzzled. If you didn't bring the blood of the chatas inside the Beis Hamikdash, then what? Then what? Then what? Why aren't you eating it? Why aren't you eating it? So watch this. Says the Gemara of Tarab on the Pnima. Ainli ela Pnima. I only know. So we'll say the word Pnima means. I would have thought, based on this, that Pnima means that you're not allowed to bring the blood of the chatas into the Kodesh Hakadoshim. And if you bring the blood of the chatas into the Kodesh Hakadoshim, that's when the carbon is valid. Heichal minayin. How do I know that even what? How do I know that even if halacha l'maisa, I went ahead and I brought the blood into the heichal? But remember again, heichal just means the rest of the Beis Hamikdash structure aside from the Kodesh Hakadoshim. Talmud lomar ela kodesh pnima, because we'll say the Torah adds in the phrase ela kodesh pnima. Pnima means kodesh kadoshim. Ela kodesh means anywhere in the temple structure. So the Gemara says, so ela kodesh pnima. The yomar kodesh val yomar pnima. So I don't understand. Just say kodesh and leave out pnima. Because we'll say, what could I have said? If it would have just said kodesh means what? Kodesh means what? The heichal, the Beis Hamikdash. If I can't bring chatas blood into the Beis Hamikdash, then what? I certainly can't what? Kodesh HaKadoshim. She says, just say kodesh, leave out pnima. Amarava, bazeh v'limeid al zeh. So we'll say, this one comes to teach the other. In other words, we'll say, which is another way of saying that the truth is, had the Torah just said one phrase, either kodesh or pnima, I would have thought that what does that one phrase refer to? Kodesh Kadashim. It has to say both phrases, because if you just said one, I would have automatically assumed it refers to the most sacred part of the Beis Hamikdash. Once it says two, so meaning once it says Ela Kodesh Pnima, now I know that what? Now I know that Pnima means Kodesh Kadashim, and Kodesh ultimately means Heichel. So the Gemara says, Amarava, Bazev Li Meidazeh, Midei Dahava Atoshav V'Sachir. We'll say, this is the same idea as Toshav V'Sachir. What does this mean? The Sanya, Toshav. So we'll say the pasuk that the Gemara is quoting over here is V'Cholzar Lo Yochal Kodesh. Any non-Kohen is not permitted to eat anything sacrificial. Toshav Kohen V'Sachir Lo Yochal Kodesh. So we'll say the Toshav of a Kohen and a Sachir may also not eat any kind of Kodesh. So the Gemara says, listen to this. So the Gemara says, Midav Desanya, Toshav Ze Kanui Kinyan Olam. We'll say Toshav, ultimately again, is the type of servant who is owned by a Kohen forever. Sachir Ze Kanui Kinyan Shanim. That is an Eved, ultimately again, who is required for a certain duration. Yomar Toshav al Yomar Sachir. So let the pasuk just say Toshav and not say Sachir. Vani Omer, and I would have said as follows: Kanei Kinyan Olam Eino Ochel. If someone who is owned by the Kohen in perpetuity is not permitted to go ahead and eat anything of a sacrificial nature, then Kanei Kinyan Shanim Lo Kol Shekain. Then I will say certainly what? Certainly someone who's just acquired by the Kohen for a certain duration also certainly cannot eat anything. So the Gemara says, Ilu Kain, if it would have just said one of them, if it would have just said, in other words, Toshav, then I would have said what? Hayisi Omer, Toshav Zekanui Kinyan Shanim. I would have thought that Toshav refers to someone who was acquired, who's owned by the Kohen for a certain number of years. Aval Kanui Kinyan Olam Yehe Ochel. But ultimately, I would have thought that if an Eved is owned by a Kohen in perpetuity, then Enochinami, he's an extension of the Kohanic family, and he should be permitted to eat. Therefore, Bas Sachir Velimei Dal Toshav, Shezek Kanui Kinyan Olam, V'zek Kanui Kinyan Shanim, Ve'ena Ochel. So we'll say, therefore, again, what the Gemara is pointing out over here is that sometimes, if the Torah would have just said one thing, I would have assumed that that one thing refers to what? The most extreme. So we'll say, or I should say, one item. So for example, it would have just said Toshav and Sachir. If it would have just said Toshav, I would have thought Toshav refers to someone owned by a Kohen for a certain number of years. That's who can't eat of sacrificial items. But someone who's owned by the Kohen in perpetuity becomes an extension of the Kohanic family and can't eat sacrificial items. Therefore, the Torah has to write both Toshav and Sachir to teach you whether you're owned forever or just owned for a number of years by the Kohen. Ultimately, again, you can't go ahead and partake of sacrificial items. So too over here, if it would have just said Kodesh or Penima, I would have thought that it refers to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but you can't take Chata's blood into the Kodesh. Kamash Mulan, it says both Kodesh and Penima to teach you can't bring Chata's blood anywhere into the Beis HaMikdash. Someone says, I don't understand. I'm really Abaye. Bishlama hasam trei gufininu. So we'll say there it's different. By the Toshav and the Sachir, it's two different people. Ve'afa gav dahavei lekra lemichtav nirtza lo yochal. So we'll say there the pasuk could have just said the nirtza. We'll say the nirtza refers to the eved of the Kohen, who ultimately again has his ear pierced, who is the Kohen's eved for obviously until Yovel. So once he can't eat, v'idach asi b'kavachomer, and I could have learned out the other people that they can't eat based on a kavachomer. To which the Gemara says, Milsa da'asi b'kavachomer tarach v'kasav lakra. So we'll say in that case, even though ultimately, again, it could be learned out from a kavachomer, there will say there is a concept that even when something can be learned out from a kavachomer, the Torah goes out of its way to go ahead and still write a pasuk. Elahacha kevan deika deifsal behechol. So the Gemara says, lifnai v'lifnim my boy. So we'll say here there's a bigger issue. If the dam of the chatas becomes puzzle once it comes into the heichal, we'll say then what? There is no need to write to tell me that it becomes possible when it comes to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. For one simple reason, which is you can't reach the Kodesh HaKadoshim without getting into the Heichal. So therefore, Rabbi say, just tell me the blood is possible once you hit the Heichal and we're done. Rabbi says it's actually very interesting. Amar Abaye lo nitzracha ella lederech meshupash. Rabbi say there is another way in. Rabbi say so. Rashi points out over here lo nitzracha hay pnime el derech meshupash shelo kidarko kigon derech gagin va'alios. So we'll say so. The answer is you could technically access the Kodesh Kadashim without going ahead and going through the Heichal. How is that? Through the roof and through the windows. So I'll say, so bless you. So because there is a technical way to access the Kodesh Kadashim without going through the Heichal, therefore the Torah feels compelled to go and write both Pesukim. But once again, it's not what the Pasuk says. The Pasuk speaks about entering in a normative fashion. Ela Amarava Komidi Dechashiv. So we'll say, listen, look at Rashi for just a moment. Ela Amarava li'olam da'ali derech psachim b'ashmin ikra dehechal dechashav alei mitchilas alachnis lefnai v'lefnim utchilas avos alahechal amanas pnim haya lo mifsa adamati lefnim v'nechzir lechutz chashav. We'll say, so this is a mind-blowing shita. Rava says it's to teach me a fascinating halacha, which is that I will say, if I'm the Kohen and I have in mind to dafka bring the blood into the Kodesh HaKadashim, then, when I bring it into the Heichal, if I bring it to Heichal and I change my mind and I take it back out, the blood is still kosher. That's the Chiddush, says Rava. See, watch this. If you bring it into the Heichal, the blood is puzzle. So Torah tells you if I bring it into the Kodesh Kadashim, the blood is also puzzle. Why do I need that statement? In other words, once the blood hits the Heichal, we're done. When I say hits the Heichal, meaning enters, we're done. So why did he tell me that it becomes possible if it goes to the Kodesh Kadashim for a very unique case? That if the Kohen brought in the blood dafka to take it to the Kodesh Kadashim, and then once he gets to the Heichal, he changes his mind and he takes it back out, the blood is kosher. The blood is kosher. That's the novelty of the limud by the Kodesh Kadashim. By Rava. So let's listen to this. We'll just a few more lines and we'll stop. By Rava. Par he'alam davar shal tzibur v'sar v'alis kochavim sheichnis daman lifnai v'lifnei mau. So Rav asked the following kasha. What about a par he'alam davar shal tzibur? So we'll say, remember, these are different types of karbanos. Par he'alam davar shal tzibur, that's when the tzibur, the majority of the tzibur, went ahead and committed avera based on the hora of the Sanhedrin. So remember again from our Harius days. Harius, right? So we'll say, so that's the Param Davar Shal Tzibor. What happens if you bring that, or Sir Avodas Kochavim, which is when the Tzibor again worships Avodah Zarah. So what happens if you Sheichnis Tamal Lifnai V'Lifnim Mau? What happens if you brought this blood inside the Kodesh or inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim? What's the status of the blood? Mi Amrinan Ela Kodesh Penima. So we'll say, do we say Kol Heichav Di Karina Be Ela Kodesh Karina Le Penima? So we'll say, do we say, when there's a prohibition ultimately to bring it into the Kodesh, there's a prohibition to bring it into Kodesh Kadashim. But when there's no prohibition to bring it into the Kodesh, there's also no prohibition to bring it into Kodesh Kadashim. Oh, Dilma. So we'll say, again, remember, this blood is brought into the Kodesh. So do we say, well, once it's likely brought into the Kodesh, it doesn't become invalid if brought into the Kodesh HaKadashim. O Dilma, Shlomim Komanu. Or we say, no, if you're bringing it into the Kodesh HaKadashim, we'll say that it's taking blood where it doesn't belong, and therefore what? And therefore, halacha l'maisa, it invalidates the karban. So the Gemara says, and if you want to say that bringing it to the Kodesh Kodashim invalidates it, ultimately because you're bringing the blood where it doesn't belong, so what about the Par of Yom Kippur? Shehiza midaman alabadin. They both say ultimately again the blood is sprinkled in the Kodesh HaKadoshim on the poles of the Aron. Votzion lehechol. And we both say what happens if you bring that blood out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim into the Heichol? V'echnisan, and then you bring them back in. Mahu. What is the status of that blood that was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, brought back out and now brought back in? Mi aminan mekol manhu. Do we say that it's still considered to be in its right makom? O dilma hoil v'nafak nafak. Or do we say, no, you have the right to sprinkle that blood on the Kodesh HaKadoshim as long as what? It does not leave the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but once you take it out, you can't bring it back in. And if you want to say once it was taken out, it was taken out. If you sprinkle the blood from the Yom Kippur offerings on the parochas, top of Pei Gimel, on the Mizbeach, and then you took it out to the Mizbeach, Vichnisa, and then you brought them back in. Mahu, what's the halacha? Do we say it's all one place? Or do you say that no, ultimately that's still considered to be a yitzia? So the Gemara says, teku. We'll say, so let me just end off with two pieces of halacha l'maisa, just so we could take away two takeaways. So we'll say, so first of all, dam chatos. Dam chatos shechniso l'chaper bo bifnim. Actually, let's leave that. Let me leave you with the halacha l'maisa from this Mishnah. Chatos shekibel dama b'shnei kosos. So we'll say, here's the case. I went ahead and I received the dam chatos in 2 cups. It's case of the Mishnah. Remember the Mishnah? 2 cups. V'yatza echbem l'chutz. So most remember we have 2 cases. I took one of the cups of blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Hapnimi kasher. Ultimately, again, the cup that remained inside is still going to be kasher. V'yasa mimenu. So we'll say that is halacha l'maisa. 2 cups of dam chatos, 1 blood taken outside, 1 cup remains inside. Ultimately, it's kasher. Nichnas echad mehem laheichol. We'll say if one of them was taken into the heichol, meaning inside the Beis Hamikdash proper, v'hiza mimenu sham, and I will say it was used there for sprinkling. Remember, the Rambam adds in over here, which was actively used there. Afa chitzon pasol. Even the chitzon, even the one that remains outside is pasol. Shene emar sheyuva midama filu miktsas dama em nichnas lachaper b'kodesh nifsa. So we'll say, listen to this. So halacha l'maisa. So ultimately, again, what we see over here from the Rambam is as follows. 2 cups, if one brought outside, the one that remains inside remains kosher. 2 cups, 1 taken inside the Beis Hamikdash. If actively used for sacrificial purposes, it invalidates the one that remains outside. What happens if it wasn't used for sacrificial purposes? So the Rambam says it depends. If it was intentionally taken inside the Beis Hamikdash, then what? Then it will invalidate the one that remained outside. But if it was taken in b'shogeg, then ultimately the one that remains in the azara ultimately goes ahead and remains valid. But say, let me just before we end, I just want to share with you a short 4th of July vart. So we'll say, today is 4th of July, and it's exceptionally important for us as citizens of this country to recognize the importance of this day. To recognize that, again, the anniversary of the birth of this incredible country on this day. And even though, again, like Rabbi Nachman says, L'chol makom shani holech alin holech l'Eretz Yisrael, right? Or holech l'Yerushalayim, 2 different gersas of Rabbi Nachman's statement. The Jew is always walking towards Eretz Yisrael. The Jew is always walking to Yerushalayim. But that being said, we are in Galus. We recognize that we're in Galus, but we also have to take stock of the fact that it's an incredible and overwhelmingly, sounds strange, but bracha-filled Galus. That we are privileged to be citizens of this incredible country. This country that has given our people a life, that has given our people abilities, that our people have seen the affluence like I don't think the Jewish community has seen since the time of Shlomo HaMelech. Proliferation of Torah like we have not seen in generations. Religious liberties like we have never seen in any host country before. And it is so incredibly important for us to be makir tov for these incredible liberties that this country gives us. Here, both saying, we're living in a time where the political climate is so toxic And every single day the news is filled with how terrible America is, how terrible the president is. I want to tell you something, and this is a non-political statement. Whatever your views on the president are, a person always has to speak with derech eretz about the office of the presidency. And a person always has to speak about derech eretz, about the man who occupies that office. Because whether you agree or you don't agree with him, a person doesn't become the leader of the strongest nation on the face of the earth without an incredible dose of siyata dishmaya. Now, sometimes we don't know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives certain people siyata dishmaya. That's a different discussion. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, there must always be derech eretz. Like the Mishnah Avos says, Li'olam have mispalo b'shlomo shalachos. You always have to daven for the benefit of the government. Shlomale me'orah, without government, who knows what would happen. We could disagree with policies. We could always disagree with policies. I don't think there's one of us here who doesn't believe that we need greater immigration control. I don't think anyone in their right mind doesn't believe that you can't have porous borders. But at the same time, I don't think there's one of us who could look at pictures of families being separated and not feel terrible and horrible heartbreak. Even if the policies are correct, which I'm not saying they are correct, not correct, the notion of families being separated, the notion of 2,000 children being housed separately from their parents is heartbreaking. Whether you agree with policies or you don't agree with policies, it hurts to see those images. It hurts to think that as we go to sleep at night, that our children are tucked into their bed, that there are families that are actively separated. But we have to have incredible akaras atov to the country that provides us with so much, to a government which provides us with so much, even if we disagree with their principles and policies. The beauty of our democracy is that we have the right to disagree. The beauty of our democracy is that you could tweet, you could Instagram, you could Facebook, you could do whatever you want, and you could say whatever you want, and no secret police is going to show up at your door to go ahead and arrest you for voicing policies or voicing ideas that are contrary to the government. And you should voice your opinions, and we should be heard on whatever issues. But it can never come at our expense for our love of this incredible country. And one last piece, how we have to go out of our way to be makir tov for the men and women of the armed forces. I often say, whenever I go to Eretz Yisrael, so whenever anybody goes to Eretz Yisrael, so we always make sure to say thank you to the soldiers. But in Eretz Yisrael, it's easy. Why? Because you can't go 5 feet without seeing a soldier, right? Because the reality of Eretz Yisrael is that our wars are fought on the home front. In America, you could go years without seeing a soldier. We have to understand that there are men and women who are fighting battles to preserve our democracy in countries whose names we could barely even pronounce. And we don't think about them, and we don't give a second thought to the military families that give up their mothers, that give up their fathers for us, to preserve our freedom. Sometimes I think that our greatest challenge as citizens of this country is, as the pasuk says, Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivat. The pasuk says Yeshurim gets fat and they kick. When people become complacent, they become arrogant. We have become a shtickle arrogant. As the citizens, the United States, our citizens have become a shtickle arrogant because we're so used to our freedoms and we're so used to our democracy and we're so used to the gifts that we get every single day in this country that we forget that it comes at incredible sacrifice, that it comes with incredible loss of life, that it comes literally again through the blood, sweat, and tears of the men and women of our armed forces. And we have to find a way to go out and be makir tov. So if you do see a soldier, sometimes if you go into the 7-Eleven, right across from from where Dougie's is, the armory is there. So you can see National Guardsmen, say thank you. Say thank you. Now they're going to look at you strangely because they never get thank yous. But say thank you. Police officers, again, the police, like anything else, there are good police officers, there are bad police officers, but one thing is clear, which is none of us are getting up in the morning and putting on a Kevlar vest. I'm in the Rabbanah. I should put on a Kevlar vest. I still don't put on a Kevlar vest, right? None of us get up in the morning, put on a Kevlar vest, say goodbye to our families, and don't know what the coming day is going to hold. There are men and women in blue who every single day do that. For what purpose? To protect us. Are they perfect? Nothing is perfect in this world. We're not perfect. The police are not perfect. The president's not perfect. The country's not perfect. But they do it. Say thank you. Say thank you. Be makir tov. We're privileged, Baruch Hashem, to go ahead and live in a country where there's a police force, whatever perfections and imperfections they may have. But that's, Baruch Hashem, this is the country we live in. Today on July 4th, you could drink your beer, you could enjoy your barbecue, you could take the day off, it's fantastic. But we're Jews. We find Musar in everything. There's a Musar in this day. Today is the day for us at Ribbon Shalom. We're in Galus and we're waiting every single day for Mashiach to come. But thank you. Thank you for placing us literally in the Golden Medina. Thank you for placing us in a Galus where Baruch Hashem we have everything we need and then some. Every right, every opportunity, everything we want to be, everything we want to accomplish. This country gives to us. It may be imperfect, but we are the people who always learn that you never define a thing by the imperfections. Our avodah is always to look for the beauty, for the godless, even in the midst of the sea of the imperfections. We have to find a way to express our akar satov to our elected officials, to our military, to our police, recognizing and doing whatever we can in our own way to remedy the imperfections, but ultimately saying thank you for all of their mesiras nefesh, which gives us the great daily lives we have in the United States of America. So we hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will continue to shower His bracha upon this incredible country, but we hope that Emir Hashem, the car of Mashiach will come. We Zevachim Emir Hashem to go.